I noticed that Mr. Kelley was over there, and I wasn't able to see him seated, so I was wondering if I might ask Mr. Kelley a couple of questions. Remind us, Mr. Kelley, when did you start with the City of Vancouver?
I started in September of 2016, about 3 years ago.
Okay, so about 3 years ago. And were you aware of these pre-existing neighborhood plans that had been done? I'm looking in particular at a letter from the folks that were involved in the Fairview plan, Mount Pleasant plan, where they're concerned that the work that they spent countless hours on for 3 years have not been taken into consideration. Were you aware of these pre-existing plans when you started on this exercise?
When I started on this exercise?
On the exercise being the Broadway planning exercise.
Yeah, I was aware of the existing plans. There are actually 3 that were relevant at the time and 1 since then, which was the Flats plan. So yes, and as we testified earlier, I think we have not stopped implementing the Mount Pleasant plan. And we have consulted and are taking that plan into deep consideration as a foundational piece.
Okay, well, it's just that we're receiving letters and correspondence, and I have constant outreach from residents that are certainly not receiving that.
We understand the anxiety about changes after a lot of hard work. If I could characterize Mount Pleasant as sort of a light touch review as compared to 40 and 45-year-old plans in the case of Kitts and Fairview, which were done, frankly, before the Strata Act was even in place.
So planning has been going on over the city over decades. Of course it has. And I'm just concerned that we don't forget that as we move forward. Now, the citywide planning process, we had a briefing on that where we saw what I would characterize as very high-level and aspirational values. And I asked the question, why are we not seeing any maps, things that are looking at things at a granular level in the city? I can see that there are maps and a granular level of activity here on this particular plan. Will this then be integrated into the citywide plan in its approach? Because I'm concerned that we're taking a very top-down deterministic approach to our planning instead of ground-up, grassroots up and engaging people at the neighborhood level. So my question and my request then is that we do see more map-based, place-based exercises that are showing how these plans work together, rather than just high-level aspirational stuff. Because for someone like me, it's really important to be able to get that kind of level of detailed understanding, and I think the public want to hear it as well.
So you're now speaking of the citywide plan, and yes, of course, we'll be having maps in that, and whether we start with this hyper-granular level or get to that in the process is part of what we're wrestling with right now. So we'll be happy to continue that discussion with you on the citywide plan.
Okay, well, I know there was talk here about we're looking at people outside the city, but I always remind us that we were elected by the people that are eligible to vote in Vancouver to represent them. Thank you.